Mexico employs varying voltage standards based on the type of application. For residential and commercial buildings, the common voltages are 127 volts and 220 volts. However, in industrial settings, 480 volts is frequently utilized. Understanding these differences is crucial when specifying equipment for use in Mexico, especially concerning motors and drives designed for specific voltage requirements. It is important to ensure that equipment being installed in Mexico is compatible with the local voltage standards to prevent damage or malfunction. The residential voltage of 127 volts is commonly found in many homes and smaller commercial establishments. This level is suitable for powering typical household appliances, lighting, and other general-purpose electrical devices. The 220 volts is also present in many residential and commercial buildings, usually to power larger appliances like air conditioners, electric stoves, and other equipment that requires more power than can be efficiently provided by 127 volts. The industrial voltage of 480 volts is used for heavy machinery, large motors, and other high-power equipment in factories and industrial facilities. This higher voltage level allows for the efficient transmission of electricity over longer distances and the operation of equipment with significant power demands. When designing electrical systems or specifying equipment for use in Mexico, it is essential to consider the specific voltage requirements of each application. Using equipment designed for a different voltage can lead to problems such as overheating, reduced performance, or even complete failure. It is recommended to consult with a qualified electrician or electrical engineer who is familiar with the electrical standards in Mexico to ensure that all equipment is properly installed and operated safely. In the context of bidding on a contract for equipment, ensuring compatibility with the local voltage is paramount. For motors and drives, this often involves specifying equipment that is rated for 480 volts if the intended application is in an industrial setting. If the equipment is for residential or commercial use, it should be designed to operate at 127 volts or 220 volts, depending on the specific requirements of the facility. The use of transformers or voltage converters can sometimes be employed to adapt equipment designed for one voltage to another. However, this approach should be carefully evaluated, as it can introduce additional complexities and potential points of failure. It is generally preferable to specify equipment that is natively compatible with the local voltage standards. Moreover, it's crucial to verify that all electrical components and wiring are compliant with Mexican electrical codes and regulations. This includes ensuring proper grounding, overcurrent protection, and adherence to safety standards to prevent electrical hazards. It is a good practice to conduct a thorough assessment of the electrical infrastructure at the installation site to confirm the available voltage and power capacity. This assessment can help identify any potential issues or limitations that need to be addressed before installing the equipment. Furthermore, it's important to provide adequate training to personnel who will be operating and maintaining the equipment. This training should cover the proper use of the equipment as well as safety procedures and troubleshooting techniques. By taking these precautions, it's possible to ensure that the equipment operates reliably and safely in Mexico, regardless of the voltage standards. This careful attention to detail can help avoid costly downtime, equipment failures, and potential safety hazards. In summary, while Mexico uses 127 volts and 220 volts for residential and commercial buildings, 480 volts is the standard for industrial applications. Confirming these voltage requirements and ensuring compatibility of your equipment is crucial when bidding on contracts for equipment in Mexico. It's always advisable to consult with experts familiar with Mexican electrical standards. Different regions or specific facilities within Mexico may have unique voltage configurations or requirements. A comprehensive understanding of these local factors is essential for successful project implementation. This may involve conducting site visits, reviewing electrical schematics, or consulting with local electrical contractors. When specifying equipment for use in Mexico, it is important to consider not only the voltage requirements but also the frequency of the electrical supply. Mexico operates on a 60 Hz frequency, which is the same as in the United States and Canada. However, in some other parts of the world, a 50 Hz frequency is used. Equipment designed for a 50 Hz frequency may not operate correctly or efficiently on a 60 Hz system. Therefore, it is essential to verify that all equipment is compatible with the 60 Hz frequency used in Mexico. Another important consideration is the type of electrical connectors and outlets used in Mexico. Mexico uses the same type of electrical connectors and outlets as the United States and Canada, which are NEMA 5.15 for 127 volts and NEMA 6.15 or NEMA 6.20 for 220 volts and NEMA configurations for 480 volts. This means that equipment designed for use in the United States and Canada will typically be compatible with the electrical outlets in Mexico. However, it is still important to verify that the equipment is properly grounded and that all electrical connections are made correctly. In addition to the voltage and frequency, it is also important to consider the power quality of the electrical supply in Mexico. Power quality refers to the stability and reliability of the electrical supply, including factors such as voltage fluctuations, harmonics, and transient surges. Poor power quality can damage or reduce the lifespan of electrical equipment. Therefore, it is important to protect sensitive equipment with surge protectors, voltage regulators, or uninterruptible power supplies (UPS). When installing electrical equipment in Mexico, it is important to comply with all applicable electrical codes and regulations. The electrical codes in Mexico are based on the National Electrical Code (NEC), which is also used in the United States. However, there may be some local variations or additional requirements. Therefore, it is important to consult with a qualified electrician or electrical engineer who is familiar with the electrical codes in Mexico. In conclusion, Mexico uses 127 volts and 220 volts for residential and commercial buildings, and 480 volts for industrial applications. When specifying equipment for use in Mexico, it is important to consider not only the voltage requirements but also the frequency, electrical connectors, power quality, and electrical codes. By taking these factors into account, it is possible to ensure that the equipment operates reliably and safely in Mexico. The key considerations are firstly voltage compatibility, which means ensuring that motors and drives are rated for the appropriate voltage level, whether it's 127 volts, 220 volts, or 480 volts. Secondly, frequency compatibility, which involves verifying that the equipment is designed to operate on the 60 Hz frequency used in Mexico. Thirdly, connector compatibility, which means ensuring that the electrical connectors and outlets on the equipment are compatible with the NEMA standards used in Mexico. Fourthly, power quality considerations, which include protecting sensitive equipment from voltage fluctuations, harmonics, and transient surges. Fifthly, compliance with electrical codes, which means adhering to all applicable electrical codes and regulations in Mexico. By addressing these key considerations, you can minimize the risk of equipment failures, downtime, and safety hazards. It is always recommended to consult with qualified electrical professionals who have experience working in Mexico to ensure that all electrical installations are performed correctly and safely. Furthermore, proper documentation and labeling of electrical equipment are essential for facilitating maintenance and troubleshooting. This includes clearly labeling the voltage, frequency, and other relevant specifications on each piece of equipment. It is also important to maintain accurate records of all electrical installations, including wiring diagrams, equipment manuals, and inspection reports. By following these best practices, you can ensure the long-term reliability and safety of electrical systems in Mexico. Also consider the ambient temperature. Equipment might need to operate in higher than usual temperatures. The altitude, as well, can be another consideration in Mexico. The dirting of equipment is something that may need to be considered. Finally, consider the humidity. Humid locations may require additional protection.